This is our first meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners for 2014. I'd like to, well, it's our second meeting. We had the reorganization meeting. It's our first regular meeting. We introduced Peter Ingledon, who's our new commissioner at the out of our reorganization meeting last week, but in case you didn't miss, if you missed that meeting, Peter Ingledon is joining the board, and he's our new commissioner. He was elected in the December election, and thank you for joining. Tonight's business, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. The November 14th meeting, which was a regular monthly meeting, the November 29th special meeting, and the December 12th regular monthly meeting. I emailed those out to the board members if there's any comments or any the November, we'll do 3 separate votes. The November 29th meeting was attended by Mr. Baker, Mr. Napolitano, and myself. So can I look for
I'll make a motion to adopt those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And
Abstain.
Abstain and abstain. Okay, thank you. And then we have the November 14th meeting, which is attended to by myself, Commissioner O'Hare, and Commissioner Napolitano, I believe. So can I have a motion to accept those minutes, November 14th?
Motion to accept the November 14th minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to have to abstain on those.
Were you at that one, Ray?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't have enough members to carry that, so we'll move, because Mr. Stiglman, who was on the board then, is no longer here. And the November 12th meeting was attended by the full board. Can I have a motion?
December 12th.
Excuse me, the December 12th meeting was attended by the board. Can I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I would make a motion to accept those minutes.
Mr. Baker, and do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Napolitano, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, and we have 1 abstention, and that'll carry. Okay, so those are the minutes. And so last year we had 22 meetings, and those are, now we complete the set of minutes for those 22 meetings. Fire District Activity Report, Chief Grogan.
Yes, Commissioner. Month of December, we had a total of 209 alarms, 12 of which were actual fire-related. One in particular, Group 4, a very aggressive attack on electrical fire in the basement, prevented more extensive damage. It was a very well-run operation by Captain Buccieri in Group 4. 146 EMS rescue-related calls. We were on mutual aid 5 different occasions and received it once. This actually brings our total for the year of 2013 to 3,216 alarms. This is a slight drop year over year, as we were usually running a little closer to 3,500 average, so maybe just a lot of good work by fire prevention. Once again, the month of December found FD involved in numerous local holiday events, as we do every year. This year, I believe all were completed satisfactorily. Everything went well, and I think everybody enjoys participating in these holiday events. With the recent retirement of mechanic, apparatus repairs have been handled both in-house for minor issues and through outside service provided by Ruscon Truck. Some of note was, tower ladder outrigger repaired, most recently the front brakes, and a full PM preventive maintenance was done on engine 30 at their facility, along with the repair to our engine 28 rear brakes was an emergency in-house service that they provided. They've been very responsive. Even just most recently, ladder 16 starter motor, they were quick to respond in an emergency situation and got that back up and running in a couple of hours. So while it's been a bit of an issue, just trying to manage everything, maintenance foreman Spadaro has been stepping up and trying to help out with little minor, repairs in-house, even myself helping, but Ruscon so far is proving to fill some of the need. It is more difficult. We're not going to be on top of it the way we were with the full-time mechanics such as John, but we're so far keeping a handle on things, and everything's up and running right now.
Yeah, we had the same mechanic for 39 years. He retired At the end of in November, he retired after 39 years of service. So we're now farming out that work on a part-time basis to a third-party vendor as we need to. So that's currently what we're doing.
In most cases, Ruscon, they'll show up with their own equipment, but some of our equipment, I know like for the tower ladder, the outrigger jack, Hank the mechanic was very appreciative of the portable jacks and stuff. It made it a lot easier for him having a workout on the road. A lot of times he's on his back. And this, in turn, saves us money because we're paying them by the hour. So the quicker he was able to get that cylinder out, bring it and send it out for repair, and then bring back, so that cuts some of the time. It is always more cost-effective if we can get the apparatus to them to do the work as any time, as opposed to a road service. So, but right now, it's been a trade-off. And again, Ruscon has been very receptive. They do a lot of the regular service and repair work, major repair work for other local departments, so they came highly recommended. And we've had them on board some since we purchased the KME because they are the dealer of choice, or the repair service of choice.
Okay.
So we'll keep you going, up to date on that. But the big thing will be now to rearrange, to arrange, because Mechanic Lucenti, retired, has been maintaining contact. He still likes to, he wants to stay on top of things. So from the golf course, he's touching base from time to time.
And he can still watch our meetings on YouTube, so he's happy about that as well.
Yeah. So, he has pointed out, he's helping me. I'm trying to maintain his records, and that's why I put on that hat. But he's basically saying that, we have these the preventive maintenance schedule that he would have normally done. So like maybe in a case like engine 30, he would have seen it before the rotors went. So we're going to try and arrange for Ruscon to get the other ones all caught up to date. Okay, I'll move on with that. Also during the month there, we did complete the move back to Station 5. It was a bit of a push. Of course, there's going to be a lot of minor things. Anytime you have major work like that, even in your own home, you're going to find things that need to be touched and retouched. SEBA Contracting is finishing up, minor details towards the end. We've been in communications with them. We're also doing some of our own, maybe we might want to call it decorative, the guys are getting settled in, and we see the little things that need to be taken care of. Fire prevention's closed out the year with another full month of activities in December, plus basically, in brief, there is full reports available, but, again, regular inspections of well over 700 throughout the district, along with their fire prevention demonstrations and presentations. Commissioner Napolitano just forwarded a little something that this has been an ongoing thing, the one with Eastchester schools and I think it's Mrs. Sokol.
Yeah.
Health, they've turned this into a very nice program where we get them at a slightly older age, and it's a hands-on working with the fire extinguisher simulator. It's worked out very well. So Captain Thomas Pintavel and Firefighter Vitarello do an excellent job in fire prevention. I'll just mention briefly, Assistant Chief, see if you want a little more update. The generator work has begun, and he can fill us in on the planned schedule going forward, but they have started in Station 1 headquarters as of today. Much time has been spent on personnel matters and working with district council. That's been keeping me going quite a bit, and that'll continue for a little bit. Along with the front office has really been cleaned up quite a bit, and we're making great progress there. And in close, I'd just like to mention the last commissioner's election. Again, good community interest, even though it is a tough time of year, and I'll simply say congratulations to newly elected Commissioner Incledon and his election. Sincerely look forward to working with you going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Happy New Year.
Ralph, do you want to mention the generator project, or are we pretty comfortable where we are?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the generator project, we're on track. The vendor has received the equipment that he ordered. They started today with the installations. They expect to be through with the preliminaries in Station 1 within a week and a half and move on to the next station. And then when all of the wiring is done and the equipment is installed, they'll bring in a rigger to drop the generators themselves, make the connections with limited outages on our own power, and then we should be good to go. I don't foresee any issues.
Okay. Now, during the course of the month, you attended, I think, a meeting with the Records Management Grant Committee, or the grant folks for the Records Management Department.
There was an opportunity for some training on a grant opportunity offered by the Department of Education called an Archives Grant, and I did attend that, and we're putting together a scoping of what we might do to digitalize, thank you, our blotters going back to 1929, all our personnel blotters, as well as the board's meeting minutes that go back to 1896, I think. And we're hoping to scope that out and receive some kind of funding so we can have a firm capture those in digital format so they can be reserved.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah, very
And we have, and possibly maybe we'll put fire prevention. We have a lot of oil tank records for people who have these oil tanks buried in their yard that turn out to be problematic at times when they go to transact their house or sell their house. They find out they have one of these sitting in their yard, even though they've switched over to gas years ago. The old tank was never removed, or wasn't removed. It was decommissioned, but decommissioned without paperwork. And we constantly get inquiries as to, and we have records of every house in Eastchester. If they had the decommissioning properly certified, we have those records. And so we're constantly getting calls for that. So is there any chance we can get those things?
Well, the woman that led the seminar suggested that as it's an annual opportunity to keep the parameters of the applications modest, and then to go forth every year and expand what is included in the program. So I think that preliminarily, as we're starting out, I think the archives that we're looking at, because some of them are handwritten and the books have to be unbound and then resewn, is probably a good start.
Okay.
Then next year we can take on the fire prevention material and hopefully bring that up to digital format so we can preserve that also.
So do they talk about how, whether it's a competitive grant for the entire state, or there's an allotment? How do they allot the money? Do they talk
It's a
about that?
competitive grant throughout the state.
And then they have a
there's
fixed-
different tiers. It was pretty complicated. And there's different tiers of funding for different sectors and different project arenas. So, but there is money available, and we'll attempt to grab some of it.
And do they talk about by any chance, what fire districts might have got a grant last year? Anything like that?
I looked through the past awards, and they're very, very few.
Very few.
Very few. They're mostly municipal governments that are going forward. School districts that have voluminous records. Those are the ones that are typically getting them. But locally, I think Valhalla got one several years ago, and I believe Hartsdale got one locally. But that was about it.
Okay.
So, like I said, nothing ventured, nothing gained. We'll give it a shot.
Okay. Well, thank you,
You're
Assistant
welcome.
Chief.
Thank you.
Next tonight is John Molzari, our Deputy Treasurer, not Deputy Treasurer, I have to correct that, our Treasurer.
Good evening, Commissioners, and welcome Commissioner Incledon to the board. In front of you, you have December's actual to budget comparison. Currently, we're showing a $940,000 overage. Before everybody jumps up and down, the board has in front of them that will come back into that number, $470,000, which will reduce that, and we still haven't gotten all the bills for 2013. On the revenue side, we did collect the last piece from the town. On the town taxes, we received 100% of the taxes, and we collected 99.76 of the revenue for the year. On the expenses, we're $979,000 under the expenses, but we're going to chop at that number tonight, and there's still more bills to come next month that'll cover more of December. Also in here, as part of the Treasury report, there will be a budget transfer for $60,000 from medical to overtime. We just finished the last overtime payment this current payday, this current week. So I'm recommending that we move $60,000 into overtime. And for the year, that'll bring the overtime number to $720,000, if you approve that line, or that recommendation.
That money's pretty much been spent because we've already paid salaries for paycheck 26, right? So,
Yeah, it's been paid. So we have to, we got to restore the line to
okay.
do that. So that's a separate memo in there for you to do. The bank recs are up there for your review if you want to look at them. Commissioner Napolitano's asked that we put them on Google Drive, I think Jerry said.
Yeah, storm.
So that's that.
And so Google Drive is the internal drive we use among the board. They won't be out in the public land. They'll just be among the board and whoever is privileged to see them within the fire department.
So then I won't bring them anymore to the meeting. They'll be on Google Drive once we get that up and running. Is that how?
Well, you still have to bring it to the meeting because it's public, but yeah.
Yeah, one copy.
Yeah.
Additionally, during the month of December, the permissive referendum that we did in November ran its 30-day notice. And just to remind everybody, that referendum was for about $650,000 approximately. So after, it was published in the paper, we had to wait 30 days for any public input. We did not get any. So on December 24th or something like that, we moved the money from the House and Apparatus account back into general fund, because the general fund funded all those expenses as we went through it. So that's been done. The House and Apparatus account now has, of course, then we had the $100,000 we moved in general fund to the House and Apparatus for 2013's allocation. So we're sitting with about $585,000 in the House and Apparatus account right now.
Which will get depleted when we buy the generators, the way we did the generators. We're not paying anything until the work is complete. So we haven't put up any money for the generator project yet.
And just additionally, we're starting to work on the cash flow for the first 4.5 months of the year, because we don't collect our taxes till May. We're going to use fund balance to get through and see if we have to borrow any money. Last year, we borrowed $600,000 to get us over the hump and made sure we had enough money to pay the bills and the salaries. So we're in that process to see if we'll have to do that again this year.
Right, so in there, we'll do a tax, and we'll retain counsel for a tax tax anticipation note, a TAN, they call them, and then we'll issue the note, and JP Morgan Chase again, probably. Okay, so February meeting, we'll know about pretty much how much money we'll need for that.
Yeah, so we should have all the bills in for December, and then we can go forward.
Okay, and so I guess we should look for a resolution to move $60,000 from hospital, line number 9060, spot 81, going to overtime, which is line 3413, spot 1. And so we just move $60,000 from one line over to the other. Do you have a resolution to that effect?
I didn't hear the numbers. I probably
Okay. We're going to move $60,000 from the hospital line to the overtime line for 2013.
Yeah. Okay, so resolution to pass, to move $60,000 from 9060.81 to 3413.1 in overtime.
So you want to make that, and I'll second it?
Make a motion. I made that motion.
I'll second it. Commissioner O'Hare? Aye. Commissioner? Aye, okay.
Aye.
And Mr. Baker?
Aye.
And I'll say aye, so that passes. Okay, Jerry, removed your, John, we'll do that transfer.
One last thing, we awarded the audit for 2013 to BST, which is Bellum, Sheehy, and Toscani.
We'll just call him BSD.
Yeah, thank you. I have been in contact with them. I've notified our previous order that, we went in a different direction. This year, the audit will be in the first week in March, is where they've got a schedule, which should put us in good standing to get the audit report in and, meet all the state deadlines.
Good, that would be good to have it all done on the statutory date or prior to the statutory date would be. We also have that one file we have to get done,
Audit,
not the audit, prior to the audit,
AUD.
AUD. We have to file the AUD sometime between now and,
Well, it's February 28th, but we're allowed that first extension they usually give us. So we'll see if we get it in on time.
because if they get the audit done in time, we can use the data from the audit to help file the IAD, the AED.
AUD.
Right, okay. So we're on target. Okay.
John, just one question about the tax levy from the town to us. Can you go over those numbers a little slower again, what we got so far?
We got $15,968,461, which is 100% of what we budgeted. Is that what you're asking, Jerry?
Yeah, so everyone paid their tax bill?
I don't know that. I know we got paid for everybody.
Yeah, we don't-
Mr.
Mr. Wolf?
Mr. Wolf questioned, we had this discussion, and the town kind of guaranteed they would pay it. So I don't know if everybody paid the taxes, but we got paid.
Okay, that's kind of what the point I wanted to get across. All right, thank
Okay.
you.
The town could have sold those receivables too, and there you go. It's possible.
It's like a watch. It tells time, I don't know how it works, but we got the money.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions?
All, no more questions. Thank you, John. All good. Okay, so we had next scheduled to talk about board, before we go to committee reports, board goals for 2014. Does anybody want to discuss that now, or do you want to go to committee reports?
The committee reports.
Oh, committee reports? Okay, fine. And we have a new set of committees this year, member assignments. So, career firefighter, Commissioner Baker?
We really have nothing to report. We didn't meet because there was we have a rolling, regular meeting set up. If we need to, we meet. We decided not to meet because of the holidays. There wasn't anything pressing. I will get with Sean Stewart afterwards when he gets up. Stay tuned. That's called foreshadowing. But we don't have anything set up, but we are ready, willing, and able at any given moment. That's it for career right now.
Okay, and Commissioner O'Hare is just learning now, he's volunteer committee?
Nothing to see it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
On that, I have one thing to add, because I'm the co-chair.
sure.
The volunteers have apparently scheduled their meeting for January for tonight, so that is why Commissioner O'Hare and Commissioner Baker are not at that meeting, or one of us isn't, because we're here. So in the future, I think they need to
Be cognizant of
be
that.
cognizant of,
Well, what happens, it's normally, their meeting's usually the first Thursday of the month.
Understood.
But being that so close to New Year's Day,
All right.
nobody's around, so they rescheduled to this week without really
right.
thinking about it.
So otherwise, we would have somebody there,
Okay,
but we're here.
okay. House and apparatus, Commissioner Napolitano?
Nothing really to report. I think most of the status was given to us by the chief this evening, so nothing new to report there.
Okay.
On the House side, we still haven't done the final punch list for Firehouse Number 5. We're still working with SEBA Contracting to do that. There's still some final cleanup that they need to do and some stuff that they still owe us. I'm intending to get with the chief and go over the plans and create that final punch list so that we can serve it to a SEBA contractor, hopefully within a week or two.
Okay, thank you. I'm budget and finance, but John pretty much wrapped that up, so I'll move on from there. Communications, we did receive a letter from the Controller's Office asking us to respond to a standard workday questionnaire, which we're working with John and council to respond to. Grant Committee, Mr. Incledon?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Health and Wellness, Mr. Napolitano?
Nothing at this time?
And Technology, Mr. Napolitano?
Nothing new to report at this time, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So, we can go to board goals, or I think that's pretty much it. We have a little, we can go through a few topics for tonight. We have council to, Mr. Baker, do you want to talk about adding a local legal resource?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've decided that to better facilitate basically local issues like things where hearing officers are needed and things like that, there's a firm in Scarsdale, Jones Morrison, that has given us a bid of $2,000, I wish it was that, for me, $235 per hour for partners, and $175 per hour of associates, paralegals at $120, and law clerks who would be limited to law students or graduates not yet admitted at $90 an hour. This bid that they've given us is not, we can discharge any time with or without good cause at our discretion, and only owe what we've used of their time. There's no retainer, nothing like that. And it's to facilitate like local, they have a background in municipal law amongst other general practice issues, but it's mostly municipal law for our end of it. So I would make a motion that we, not make a motion for this, right?
Yes, you can make that.
I'd make a motion that we adopt this, or that we enter into a agreement with this firm and use them for what I'd said, not to drag it out, but, you know.
Gotcha.
But not limited to that. We could use it for whatever we want, but that's really one of their specialties.
Right, and our law firm that we'll be using is Cogleg and Geckhart for most everything we do. This will be a local resource we have when we need a local resource. So, is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Commissioner Inkledon?
Aye.
Commissioner Napolitano?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
And Commissioner O'Hare?
Aye.
And I'll say aye. Okay, so that's that topic. This year, we had the fire district election, which, we have the doctor.
Do you want to do that at the end?
We'll do it now. We might as well do that right now.
Okay.
We have a need to retain a new doctor because Dr. Sullivan has asked us that he would like to step down from the position. He was very graceful about it. He gave us plenty of time to find a new doctor. We believe we found a new doctor, and Jerry will explain.
Yeah, so I want to make a motion to retain Dr. Lokesh Reddy of 700 White Plains Road for the following 2 months in the amount of $2,500 per month,
Right, well, we can just retain him for,
or monthly fee of $2,500.
right, but not for 2 months. We can just keep it for a monthly fee.
All right, so we're retaining Dr. Lokesh Reddy, 700 Post Road, in the amount of $2,500 per month.
Right, subject to a council coming to an agreement.
Approval of a contract between council and the doctor.
Okay. Have a second on that, or discussion?
Not me.
Okay.
Discussion.
I'll second it.
Aye.
Oh, okay, I'll poll the board. Mr. Inkledon?
Aye.
Mr. Napolitano?
Aye.
Mr. O'Hare? And I'll say aye. And Mr.
I abstain based on the fact that that's why our family physician.
Okay.
In the plan, so I don't want anybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, so Mr. Baker abstains. Okay, motion carries. All right. Next course of business, we've had the election this year and required a lot of work and organization, and Tom Andres did a phenomenal job getting that all done. We're looking ahead to next year where the law is changing. The law has changed. The way we conduct our elections will completely change next year from how we did it in history, because it'll be a November election. That requires some negotiation with the county as to how we are going to proceed in each of the polling places, what the petition times are going to be like, what the poll workers are going to be, and we believe it's going to take someone dedicating some time to go out and meet with the county officials and to meet with the town officials, and just to get this process started. We don't want to wait until too late to start it. We need to start it right away so we can be organized by the time election time comes. It'll be here sooner than our normal elections because it's going to be November this year, not December. So the proposal on, and we would like to have Tom Androys do this for us at basically $85 an hour to up to $2,200 to take a shot at negotiating on our behalf with the different county officials and getting this done. And he'll report back periodically to the board and tell us his progress he's making or what progress he's not making, but how we're getting this done. And that's what we'd like to do. Do I have a motion to that effect or any discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Peter Inkledon makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Mr. Inkledon? Mr. Baker?
Aye.
Mr. Napolitano?
Aye.
Mr. O'Hare? And I'll say aye. And we hope Tom's success in negotiating this for us. We're glad we're starting it now because we don't want to start it too late in the cycle, and we just want to get it moving along and have the process in place because it's going to be a new process. So that's that issue solved. Okay, next one. We have a number of items. Chief, how are we making out with the hiring of new firefighters? We're scheduled between 6 and 8 firefighters possibly. Where do we stand on that? Is it?
Well, in the process, actually, I believe the CPAT practice is scheduled tomorrow and Saturday. Then the actual CPAT test would be in February, which would show us who passed. They're talking tentative start date of March. So our next step would probably be to bring them in, we'd do some interviews and some background checks and be prepared to hire when we get the official list from the county, which until they all pass the CPAT, right now it's a canvas list. It's not an actual hiring list.
Okay, so we have to get between now and when our first round of interviews and process, we're going to have to develop a methodology of how we do background work and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, well, basically I was looking to just have them, we set up a pre-employment questionnaire, have them fill out, release forms and so that we can do checks. Maybe get them to provide their own, license abstract, things like that, similar to what other departments have done.
Okay.
And the big thing is, we should do some interviews. We're looking to maybe talk to 20 different candidates for 6 positions, I would say. But again, it all depends on the final results of the CPAT, but.
Okay. Well, this year we're going to try to improve the process, just making it more rigorous, our background process. Not that we have any issues in the past, we just think the world should get more rigorous, and that's what we're going to do. So that's what I have for tonight's board topics, unless somebody else has a topic I missed. Because we've done the mechanic, doctor search, security system ID cards, we're still working on that. And the replacement of Command Car 2102, that's still, we have to wait for Cheryl to come back with that document, right?
Yeah, well, it's.
You didn't review it?
Okay, so there's no new business tonight with the board, anyone? All right. And board, you want to wait for board goals to the end, or you want to do it now, or we should go further down, how 916 report and volunteers report?
I'd say hold it to the end, no?
You want to do it to the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sean, do you have any on 916 report?
Good evening. Sean Stewart, President of Local 916 and a resident of the north end of Eastchester. First, I'd like to thank the public for their participation in our holiday raffle, which helps out with our scholarship program and with Operation Lightbulb. Winners this year, first prize was Stephen Noy. Second prize was Joseph Ragno. Third prize was Christopher Caparo. Fourth prize was Roy Stevens. And fifth prize was C.J. Recipio. Those were the winners for our holiday raffle. Toys for Tots was, again, very successful. I'd like to thank the district. The Eastchester Fire District 916 has been the largest provider for toys in Lower Westchester. We had over 1,000, I think it was 1,200 toys, gifts for the needy children. So again, I'd like to thank the public and using the 5 firehouses as a drop-off points. Station 5, I noticed, Jerry, you said about a punch list. I have a punch list here that I'll give you. I guess that was asked to compile a punch list. Along with that, there was a question about the food allowance money. When the gentlemen, the men and women moved out of Station 6 to Station 5, they took the trailer out, we had no kitchen. Was that money paid already, or does it need to be processed? For the,
No, okay, that,
Ralph or Mike, I don't know.
no, that was should have, okay, I missed that with John, he was supposed to.
invoice, you need an invoice? Okay. Okay.
So it sounds like, John, is that you got Sean?
All right, I'm in tomorrow. I'll come in and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, run it by the chief, and the chief will give it to John. That's generally
Question
how it
was, the
works.
numbers we had was different day or so, we had discussed this, but I think the concern was, how were we gonna pay it out? It wasn't like who'd you want, we didn't know who to, were we gonna give
I
it to
think
the
we-
union distribute, or give it?
I think
to
we're, the question, Sean, I
the
think is
house
going to
fund.
be, I got the question. The question's going to be, do we write a check, would you give us how many members, so when the public understands what we're talking about? We had no food capability at the firehouse. We had no.
No kitchen, no
No
working
kitchen, no kitchen no kitchen to prepare food in. So we gave the contract calls for a stipend, so we offered a stipend while there was no kitchen facility for a couple of weeks there, because that was cheaper than, it was just a better deal for us to do. The question is, if you give your accounting of the memberships that were working and what the stipend is, do you want we believe, the chief believes the check should go to the union and then you distribute it to your membership? First, if we distribute it to you via the paychecks, it'll be taxed. If we distribute it to you directly as under
No,
your.
it wouldn't be taxed, it's a reimbursable.
It's reimbursement, would you tack it, or you just give them separate checks?
Doesn't matter, but it's
All right,
not,
I'll-
One check, no, you would give one check to the union and it's not taxed.
it's not tax period, it's a
I'll let
reimbursement.
Tommy come up. He's got more information on it. Do you want to?
So it's not a big deal. You guys just have to tell John how much it is and he gives
I
right to
think we're best just giving one check to the house fund and let
It's
that.
not an issue. I believe we made this agreement with Commissioner Napolitano that the number of firefighters working in that house times the number of days is going to be paid into the coffee fund. The coffee fund will distribute the money to the people that were involved in the houses at that time.
Fine, but somebody just got to.
And I believe that was the agreement. We will give you the number as to what you could pay to the
I'm
coffee
referring
fund.
to this house fund, you're saying coffee fund.
Same thing,
That's what
same
I'm saying,
thing.
is the house.
So that was the agreement. I believe we will provide you with that number tomorrow. We have it.
And then
I
you
don't
get-
have it on me.
It was just about 11,
What?
Just give John the list of the days, though, don't just give him a number.
Not a problem. We have it.
You got that? All right, then that takes care of that. Next on the last thing with Station 5, had a brief conversation, Dennis, when they moved in there, and there was talk about kitchen supplies, pots, pans, knives, forks, dishes, about maybe what would be the recourse. Have you guys discussed that with the board? I mean, we had an informal conversation.
It hadn't really come up with me as.
I could talk a little bit about that, so.
Yeah, Jerry here is Mr. House and Apparatus. So.
All right, so I'm looking at the bill right now for the TVs. And I only see one, right?
So, go ahead.
There's only one TV on there. Is that all you guys are going to move forward with?
no, there's two. There's
I
two
only saw
separate
one.
ones. I mean, I don't know if they priced it around, that was probably there's two. I believe there's two bills.
I only found one. Help me find it then while I'm talking about this. So what I was going to do is I gave it an allotted balance for that, so
Okay.
I wanted to see what that came back with, and then we can make a decision on, I don't understand where the pots and pans went. I mean, they were
Well,
moved to 6.
Part of the
right?
problem was, and it was supposed to be temporary, 6 months, and they were down there for almost 3 years. And with everybody going in and out, we don't know if some of the stuff got contaminated, and then some of the stuff got disappeared. They left it there with the hopes of it coming back within 6 months, and we didn't come back until 3 years
So
later.
we have pots and pans,
The
beef.
pots and pans, knives and forks, plates, and I had a brief discussion with Dennis on it. He was going to bring that up with the board to discuss that and go from there. So, I mean,
I don't know, let me see what the budget comes back with the TVs, and then we can discuss it as a group. I mean, but it sounds like you're going to have a lot of money in the house fund anyway, but you're saying you're going to move that right to subsidizing everybody for their food?
yeah, because guys, the men and women had to lay out money to eat.
Sean, they have, a lot of stuff was with them down there. I don't understand, where did it all go?
They didn't have silverware, they didn't have plates, they didn't have,
I think it was all down there in boxes underneath, down at Station 6.
This is not really...
Chief, to be honest with you, when we were told to move out of the house, we were told it was going to be a 6-month process.
Yeah, we know
There
that.
was going to be damage to the floor, the essentials were taken out of the house, whatever was left was in the house. When the floor got demolished and there was contamination in the house, and then you decided to do the rest of the house,
All right,
there was a considerable amount of...
So don't,
There was a considerable amount of private property and property that was amongst the houses, which included pots, pans, dishes, stuff, that was left there. They took the essentials to go to Station 6. The rest was left in Station 5. When they came back to Station 5, everything was either thrown out or contaminated with dust and everything. So everything, and as you know, Chief, you told everybody, whatever's up there, throw it out. So there was a tremendous amount of stuff
Guys,
that was thrown out.
listen,
We
so
don't
it's
have time to deal with this. This is
simple
just-
solution.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not looking for an argument. I'm
I'm not
just
either.
trying to explain what
It was never
happened.
said like that.
You did say it. You did say it.
So, Sean, don't give us a,
Kitchen
don't give us
cabinets
a
were
go ahead,
dollar
I'm
amount.
sorry, Jerry, go ahead, Jerry.
Give us a dollar amount, give us a
Okay.
list of what you need. Number of forks, number of knives, number of pans, types of pans.
All right,
Do that.
fine, that's fine.
Don't give me a dollar amount, just tell me
Then
what you
at
need.
the end of the meeting, I'll meet with the board for a couple
Or
minutes.
just
but-
send me an email, have the guys tell me
Right, right.
how many pans and
But
pots
what
they
I'm-
want.
We'll set up the next career meeting, because we didn't do it for the first week of the year because of the holiday. And to finish up, you mentioned the doctor position. Now, we have a new doctor, so now what is the procedure? We do not go to Max Sullivan, we go to this new doctor?
The chief will put out a directive when it's time for you to change doctors.
Okay,
We just made it, we just voted on the new doctor right now.
Right,
We
right.
didn't
No,
vote
I
on
heard
a
that.
start date or anything yet.
so in other words, until that change is made, the staff is still going to Max Sullivan?
Right, and the chief will give you a directive and post it when that's going to happen. It'll be in short order. It'll be within,
Within the month.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
And then I had a telephone call. I heard the chief talk about the mechanics position. Now, there's a little confusion as to what's going on with the position. I know there's been informal talks with members of the local, but there's been no formal talks with the executive board to sit down and see what direction the department would like to go. And I know there might be 1 or 2 qualified candidates. And as far as the confusion, allegedly there was supposed to be something tonight, and I was never notified by anybody, be it the chairman or the chief of the department. So I want to get that out there very quickly before somebody says, I tried to stop the meeting, or unfortunately, let me finish, or one of the gentlemen involved, John Reichelt, looks like he's got egg on his face because he said he was going to show up. Unfortunately, that's not how we do business in Local 916. You just don't stop by a firehouse and say, hey, what do you got? Show up tomorrow night, Dennis, and let's see where we're going. Now, on the other hand, if I was supposed to be notified by the chief of the department, then the ball was dropped there. We have no problem negotiating this position, but the way it's been handled in the last 24 hours, there's something missing here. You know, we're willing to move forward with you gentlemen and discuss this, but I didn't find out until late this morning, and now there's been some confusion that Sean and Local 916, or maybe John Reichelt, that they're trying to cut their own deal. So I just want to get that out there. We're willing to negotiate this, but where are we going with this?
I stopped by last night and saw John and said, John, I'm not going to talk terms. You can't talk terms with you without one of your representatives in the room. Why don't you come by tomorrow night? Chief was out of town because he was away for a few days, which he hasn't taken much time off, but he took the last 3 days off. I know the board's meeting. What we're not going to do this year is have a lot of special meetings between months. So our next meeting will be in February. We're not going to call special meetings every so often. We're just not. So I stopped by and saw John, and I made an extreme point not to discuss terms. I just said, why don't you and Sean get together, or your representative get together, the board's meeting tomorrow night. You want to stop by at 7:30, hopefully, and get a hold of Sean. If Sean or the union is not available, then you don't make the meeting. You cannot come without Sean or the union representative. That's how the conversation went down, and I emailed the board, and I said I invited the union and the mechanic, and John Rochelle, to come by tomorrow night, because he's the only person I know of who's put his hand up to say he's interested in this position. And if you want to come by at 7:30 and have a conversation, that's it. So there wasn't no egg on anybody's face.
What I'm trying to say is, Local 916 Executive Board was not notified. Not notified by
Well, you
anybody.
didn't have to come, I mean, it was, if you can get here tomorrow night, 7:30 with Sean, we'll have a discussion.
Right, but I see this is where some confusion comes in, because I don't want John to look like he is cutting his own deal, which he's not.
Of course he's
And
not.
that Union Local 916 is sitting on their hands and letting this go by, because we're not. We want to be active in the discussion, but to just matter-of-factly stop by stop by the firehouse and mention it to him. I mean, you could have called me, you called me on other issues, or if the chief was supposed to call me, he could have called me. Here we go with communications.
It's very easy, Sean, to solve this problem. You guys, the local, put on a sheet of paper what you think that position is, what you want. Come back to us on a sheet of paper what you think that is. And then we'll sit down and have a discussion. And that's what we'll do. I mean, we're eager to fill somebody into that slot. We're eager to open it up to the ranks. We're eager to move forward. We would like to get it done. Do we want to go out and pay Ruscom every time they have to come in? No. We'd like to keep it in the house? Yes. That's what we're trying to do. Now, we're also, as a board, very, very busy. We just are. And it is
We
the
posted
holidays.
the position, right?
I understand that,
and
Jerry,
we're-
you
and so-
posted it, but if you have one or two candidates,
Sean, we're not going to go on for this forever.
I'm not going to go on
Put it
either.
in-
Just
put
send
it
them a
in
letter.
writing.
Say, listen, we'd like you to come in and talk about the position, or contact me, that's all.
I'm telling you now, put in on a piece of paper what you, on your, whatever you want that position to be.
All right, but I mean, again, it's communication, and you can't say, Dennis, you can't sit here and say the board is very busy. Everybody's very, very busy. If you can't multitask, then maybe you shouldn't be sitting in that seat.
Okay, Sean,
Or,
move
no, wait, hold on a second. Or as you said last year, changing the commissioner's election, you'll get a better qualified candidate. Now, if I was one of the gentlemen sitting up there, I would take that as an insult, because you're saying the five of you are not qualified. I'm not trying to start off with the wrong side of the foot here, or the wrong side of the bed, but, you asked for communication. That's all I'm asking for. And here was no communication, and I don't want John to come off looking like he's trying to cut his own deal.
He's not.
I know that, but I just want to make sure I get that out there, because that's the way it looks when you stop by to talk to them. I understand no terms were discussed. That's fine, but you could have contacted me or Tommy. You've done that in the past. Thank you. You mentioned the budget, and that's a $600,000 carryover from last year, correct? So that means we're not borrowing money. Did I understand you correct, John?
No.
No. Yeah. No, the money that came, unless I misunderstood you. 600,000.
That was a missed referendum that's published in the paper. The general fund paid for it during the year. Then at the end, when we did one of the advertising, we put it in the paper, waited 30 days, and the public replied. They didn't reply. I took the money from the house and apparatus.
The audience can't hear,
Put it
John.
back in the general fund, because the money was spent on Station 5.
Okay,
Is that answering your question?
that answers my question. Thank you. All right,
All
thank
right, so can you clarify that, Dennis? Because I'm sure the audience didn't hear that.
Can't hear that.
Yeah, you might well come and say,
Thank you.
you're right, the public is
you.
going
And
to miss that.
I'll give you the dates when we're done. Thank
If
you.
you can give the summation of that.
The question was on the $600,000 and how it affected the budget. I think the question was how the $600,000 that I mentioned earlier, which was used originally from the general fund to pay for all the work that was done at Station 5 during the year. Then at the end of the process, when Station 5 was completed, we did a permissive referendum, published the legal ad in the paper, had a resolution by the board. We had to wait 30 days if anybody in the public in the town of Eastchester had any issues with the permissive referendum. We waited the 30 days, and we replaced the money we had used in the general fund, taking it out of the House and Apparatus Fund, okay? So we'd been spending the money out of the general fund, now we put it back.
Right.
So it's really an accounting entry, and then we did it legally with the permissive referendum.
Correct. Right,
And that's unique only to an apparatus fund,
Correct, to the House and Apparatus.
House and apparatus fund.
right. Okay, John, got it. Sure, ask a question, Tommy.
Just a question on behalf of what you just stated. Two things come to mind. Number one, was the 2013 budget, are we under budget, or did we go over budget?
Well, what the treasurer just explained was, if we started the year and ended the year without doing the referendum to deplete the reserve account, we would have been negative on the year or close to negative on the year. We depleted the reserve account, gave us positive on the year. But as you know, Tommy, we have a series of apparatus that are 2001 and 2000.
That was my next question to you.
And
By
so-
transferring that money out of the apparatus fund, knowing
House and
we
apparatus.
are in need of apparatus, what is left in the apparatus fund?
It's about we spent that earlier tonight. There's about $500,000 in the House Apparatus Fund, $540,000, I think was the number, in the House Apparatus Fund. We're going to put 3 generators in, which I'm sure you would appreciate, that there's going to be 3 new generators there.
Been asking for that for years, absolutely. And actually, the board made a motion and seconded, and it carried through 2 years ago to make that happen.
And then Hurricane
And 2 years later, we're still waiting for that to happen.
And then you had
But good, I'm glad it's happening. Thank God it's happening.
You had Hurricane Sandy, which put a high demand on generators in the Northeast. So we waited for the price of generators to come back down again, and now we're putting the generators in.
Oh, well and good, but that was 2 years ago.
Right.
But going back, I'm sorry to reiterate on this, but I'm going to say Mr. Maldesari got up and said a month ago that we were running under budget for the year on year.
We are running under budget.
So how did that, am I wrong with your statement? I heard you say that. I don't mean to, I don't want to argue with you, but
Tommy-
he got up at the meetings and said we're running under budget,
Tommy,
and
we-
now you had to make a transfer of $600,000.
Okay, we don't have a debate between yourself and Mr. Molazari, but basically,
I'm not trying
we're
to
going
debate
to
you. I'm
run,
trying to come up with what you're saying.
we are going to have a surplus at year end.
You are.
We are. That's obvious from the transfer. That's why
That's
you
all
end
I'm
up with a
asking.
surplus.
You're having a surplus. How much is the surplus? Do we know?
Mr. Molazari will give you that
Do we
answer.
know what the surplus is, sir?
Earlier in the meeting, I gave you the December Treasurer's Report. I said, right now, we're at $900,000. Up there are $475,000 in bills that are not in the December number. There are also other bills we have not paid yet that relate to 2013. So this number we're looking at now is continuing coming down. Are we going to be under budget for the year? Probably, but it's not the numbers you're hearing me say. We also have to wait for the auditors to come in March because the accounting entries are made from period to period. So, it's not the number you're hearing. It's probably in the $150,000 range probably, year-to-date for the year. The other thing, there seemed to be some, I don't know if it's confusion, the Capital and Apparatus Fund, okay? We started the year with $1.1 million, roughly. We did $600,000 worth of work, brought it down to $500,000. Every year in the budget, there's a $100,000 current allocation that's moved from the general fund to the House and Apparatus Fund. We've done that this year. So the number in the House and Apparatus is about $585,000 right now.
Hey, thank you, John, for making that clear. Okay, so shall we talk about 2014 goals, what we'd like to get done? One thing we're going to get done, hopefully by next month's meeting, there's a series of policies that we're going to circulate among the board that we already have existing. Ethics policy, accounting and procedures, A social media policy we need to come and distribute. We don't have one at this current time. A workplace violence policy we have, but it just needs to be updated for contact information. A purchasing policy. And so we're going to try to get those policies on the agenda for the February meeting for an annual review of all our different policies between now and next month. That's not part of our 2014 goals. That's just a annual review of our policies. I'll make some comments that, well, who would like to start on what we think our goals should be for 2014?
Well, from a House and Apparatus Fund, I think that, after we complete some of this work on 5, well, we're going to finalize the work on 5. I think we really need to start addressing the Tuckahoe Firehouse as well as the Chester Heights Firehouse. So I want to start a process of identifying cost and what physically needs to get done at those 2 locations.
Yep, the Bronxville floor here as well.
Right, but I'm weighing priorities, right? So I'm not sure we're going to be able to do all 3 this year, right?
I would suggest we might try to get a reserve study done on the 5 firehouses, do them all at the same time. The schedule of work can be set for prioritized, but I think a reserve study would benefit us greatly because it's going to provide an in-depth analysis of the physical components of all the houses, electrical, plumbing, heating, roofs, windows, everything done by qualified engineers. And it'll also provide a financial analysis of, what the repair replacement costs of these, completing these issues that may be identified would be over a period of 30 years, and the best way to fund it. So I think it really would do us tremendous good to have that kind of study done. I think we would certainly derive, besides having properties that are properly maintained, it would also help us with budgeting, sound financial planning and budgeting direction going forward, just because these studies will lay out when these different building elements need to be repaired or replaced, what the cost will be, adjusted for local material and labor cost, adjusted for inflation. And I think it'll also help us comply with the Office of State Controller standards, which is something that I think we've had some issues with in the past. There's a handful of firms that are very, prominent in this business. I would suggest that we try to get some complimentary, presentations of what's involved in these reports. They do them for other fire districts now. And then decide if this is something that we think could really add value and if it's worth spending the money on.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and then that would also allow us to figure out whether we want to make it a capital cost or a bond for it.
Right.
Which, I'm honestly more for bonding than putting it at a one lump sum capital cost.
Well, I think it's going to end up having to be bonded. I don't think we have much choice than bonding. We can never do it on a single shot. So, and so therefore, you're going to have to get the public on board and convince the public that you have this need. And you're not going to convince the public unless you have some documentation of that need. So, I think it's what we need to do is probably find or research firms that do firehouse inspections, because the building across the street here, the Bronxville Firehouse, was probably built in the 1930s and has had no substantial renovations since then. Chester Heights is
Bronxville was mid-40s, around
Mid-40s?
46, 47. Chester Heights was 1932 and hasn't been touched.
Chester Heights is 1932, an absolutely beautiful building, a gorgeous building, but it's a wreck. So we need somebody there to help out. We need somebody to figure that out, because it's just a beautiful building inside. But we use 30 gallons a day of oil or something there in that building. Some ridiculous amount of oil we use in that building.
It's at least 50% more than the other houses on average. I'm going to say, from when I used to track the numbers, it's, Assistant Chief, looking at more, but it's a good 50% more fuel usage. The boiler is actually the original boiler that was coal originally, so that one's never been updated. That house has been in desperate need of repair for 20 years.
I think Ray, do you have any comment
I
there?
agree with Peter. It's an excellent
Okay.
idea.
So we should look to, one of the goals would be to look to get a long-term plan on all the houses and retain an engineering firm.
I think we need some short-term goals, though, for construction this year, though. We really have to decide what
Honestly,
falling
the
apart.
short term, which should have been done, I had to bring it back because it was supposed to be addressed 3 years ago when they started the floor. Station 2's ramp and apparatus floor is a disaster.
Yeah, at a minimum, we have.
We never got the actual specs that we paid for 2 years ago from a previous firm. And
Okay, so Tuckahoe floor,
floor and the ramp outside.
floor and the ramp,
It's
which is
an
not a
extreme
major
danger.
project. That's not a major,
No, we're talking, I don't know, things have gone up, maybe 60 grand now. We've got to do it. It's I don't know.
We could wait and break an axle.
that's a statement against self-interest there, Mr.
Problem is, it should be a warm weather project because we have nowhere else right now we could park.
Well, we can make plans now.
Right.
If we make plans now, we'll be ready in March to start the pour. So, yeah, I think we get one of the goals
That won't
needs to be
need bond. Station
engineering,
3 and 4 need to
an
be
engineering thing, and the Tuckahoe ramp and Tuckahoe floor. Okay? Other things we need, I think, Commissioner Baker, do you have anything as far as, one of the goals, I think, and was been batted around, is a standardization?
Yeah, one of the things that the Career Firefighters Committee has discovered, I don't want to say discovered, but it keeps being a recurring statement made, is the differences in how the different groups are trained, internal procedures. Inconsistencies between the groups. And one of the things I think we need to do this year is get them all more or less on the same page. It's not that they're not being trained properly, it's not that they're, and I don't want that to be what comes out here. That's not the case. They're all being trained, they're all being trained well. It's just that one group has one set of rules, more or less, and another group has a different way of handling things and procedures, and that causes problems when firefighters fill in, or when certain things come up before the career committee. So I think we need to get everybody standardized, so there's basically one, in the Army, it's called a standard operating procedure, like one SOP, so that it's the same in every group. So, would you concur with that, Mr. Napolitano?
Absolutely.
I would be in the same camp, and it's not for us to say, this is the training, or do you gentlemen have any comments, or? No. So it's not for us to dictate what that training should be.
Exactly.
We have no clue as to what that exact training should be. We just know every group should be doing the same training at the same time. So if we're doing hazmat training drill for one captain, every group will be doing the same exact hazmat training, and it won't deviate from what this Group 1 is doing, from what Group 2 is doing, Group 3 is doing, Group 4 is doing. And it won't be the hazmat training for Group 1 will happen in March, and it'll happen in April or May for the next group. They will happen at the same time in the same sequencing. So if somebody's filling in for another group or doing a mutual, they're getting the same training. And that will, we're hoping that will carry through for responses to things like Lawrence Hospital or buildings, that the apparatus will arrive and everybody's expecting the same thing out of each group when they respond. There won't be, we do it one way for this captain, we do it another way for this captain. There'll be a standard, every captain does everything the same way, is what the board would like to see. We would position, and it's not for us to tell you what that is, it's you guys, it's for the chief, the assistant chief, and the captains, and hopefully it comes from the captains, because they're the ones who are doing this more actively every day than the assistant chief and chief, and they float the idea up to the assistant chief, who floats it up to the chief as to what that standard will be. That would be my guess how it's going to work.
Yeah, that and absolutely, and then some standardization of whatever internal rules and policies and procedures there are, so that it's the same in Group 1 as it is in Group 2 as it is in Group 3 and 4, so that, we can wear red hats in Group 1, well, if Group 2 does it, oh my God, and there's a complaint filed or whatever. So we want to avoid that, get everybody on the same page.
Right. So, yeah, so that's one of the goals of this year will be standardization. Another thing I can think of is the communications we have to resolve. We have problems with when I say communications, I'm talking about our communication systems as phones. And that is just Jerry, you want to?
Yeah, we have, our telephony networks are very inconsistent, so we're looking to streamline them a bit. I think that's another short-term goal that I think we need to do for 2014. Hoping to reduce the monthly cost, leverage some of the fixed pricing that we have through Cablevision in the county maybe, or something like that. Start identifying some tie lines that we might not be using any longer or aren't priority. I think that we can do some savings there relatively quickly, but it's going to be tedious, a very tedious process, because there's a lot of legacy equipment and lines all over the 5 firehouses.
Right, so we have these, and never been renegotiated, so we want to, last year what we've got accomplished will allow us to do these next level things, and that's what we're moving to. So we want to, and it may be 7-digit dialing in all the firehouses instead of 4-digit dialing. So they'll just have, we won't have the connectivity we have now, but you just dial an extra 3 digits, and it's, we save a lot of money. So that's one of the goals. So I guess so far right now, I have Tuckahoe ramp and Tuckahoe floor for short term. I have communications and standardization of drills and just procedures. Operating procedures.
And I would assume that Commissioner O'Hara and I would like to meet with the volunteers at some point and maybe fold them in with something, but we don't want to speak out of turn. We just don't want them at home to feel like they're being left out of this. It's just that we haven't had an opportunity to meet with them. Commissioner O'Hara just found out tonight that he's on the committee, so, and they're not here tonight because they're having their meeting because of the previous holiday thing, so we'll get with them and get back.
Right. And then and I think the idea of doing long-term planning or doing basically an asset survey of what we have today in these firehouses, we have to start the process. And that's a slow process because we have to interview people and then find out what needs to be in the RFP. Somebody has to draft the RFP. We go out for an RFP, hire a firm, and these are generally not cheap, but we have to get it done. Okay, anybody else for goals, or we good?
I think we covered our 2 committees.
Yep.
The 2 committees I'm on, anyway.
Gentlemen, so, all right, so, and I think that's what we'll be. So, and we'll probably add 2 more as we go along. Can we have opportunity for public address to the board? Tom, Mr. Andres?
Excuse me, Tom Andrews, 6 Shady Lane. First, I'd like to thank the commissioners for showing confidence in me to get the election consolidated with the general election. They enter into negotiations with the county and the town to do that. And I do have a couple of questions, I guess. The first is, who would be my contact here on the board?
You can call me. Unless anybody else wants to put their hand up, you can call me, it's fine.
I can help support it if you want.
And Jerry as well, if I'm not around.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned bonding and talking about the equipment and so forth. Are there other elections besides commissioner that would be involved?
If we went
You said
out for
the
a public bond,
support.
yeah, if we went out for a bond ever, we'd have to have it go out for it would have to show up probably in a November election. You're allowed to do it off-cycle. You're allowed to do a bond after you have your public notice, and the school districts generally do them off-cycle.
Right.
But I think the way this district works, we'd have enough planning to do it on in November. I could be corrected. I could be,
We'd have to incur the same cost as a regular election to do a bond election.
Right.
So I guess as commissioners, we'd have to decide how important it is to not put that bond vote in during the regular election.
right.
Just like
There is an election required to get the public support for the bond.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we have
public
no,
would to vote on it.
we're allowed to do we're allowed to do a tax anticipation note, which is effectively a short note. It's not, I wouldn't think of it as a bond, because we think of bonds like they're past 10-year maturities. You start thinking of bonds, short-dated maturities and notes. So we would call it, it's a tax anticipation note. We're allowed to do that without public referendum, just public notice, because they're short-term. They're 3 months, 2 months. But anytime we do long-dated financial commitments, it has to be in the form of a bond, unless it's a certiorari or a judgment. Now, what most municipalities do, and you'll see this, is when they underfund their certiorarities, and then when the certiorarities come in, they bond them without public notice. In other words, they can go out and get a bond, and they fund their tax liability through bonding. They don't need public referendum, and you'll find them in the footnotes of the municipality that they funded via tax certiorari, because, quote, that was a judgment. So it's very common for municipalities to do that. We could do that with our search. We choose not to, because they're basically judgments when they come back to us. And that's how you would. That's the only way you can borrow money without a public referendum for a fire district.
Okay, but when the type of elections that we'd be talking about are actually not just for commissioner, but also conceivably a referendum on a bond.
Yeah, we may not want to go down that road with the people at Westchester at this point. That might confuse the topic. We just want to get the election for commissioner done first. I don't think we're going to be ready for bonding come November.
Well,
Maybe.
Okay,
No.
fine, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else would like to address the board? Okay, any board member comments?
I think we, at least on my end, we covered everything I wanted to say, so I'm good.
Okay, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'm good. Fine.
Okay, so thank you, everybody, for attending, and have a good evening. Look, we have to pay the bills, and then we need a motion to close the meeting, so who has the bills and who's read them?
I've read them.
There's a few bills we need to pull out. You're abstaining on the,
I think they got mixed up.
okay, you're abstaining on the bills? Okay, I got it. Now, there's a few bills we need to pull out of here, John. Which might they be?
Chairman, look in the cover page, because there's a list in this. I think there were things shown with highlights that you won't actually see a warrant there, because that needs some discussion. I will say on two items I know of, whether it's the Gothic and the turnout gear, the checks won't be issued until we actually get it. But the furniture is a COD, so it needs to be approved ahead of time. But it won't be released until we get the equipment. Towards the back, I think you'd see yellow highlight, or there's some right in front of you there. But there aren't, actual warrants aren't there.
Okay, there is one, these are set of, John, the board has to make a decision on what's in yellow. Is that, am I correct? These are disputed. These are disputed, right?
Say, there was an issue with the actual 2013 charges, nothing more. Those would be the full amounts without the deduction of the 2013.
Okay, gentlemen, here's what we have, in case you haven't noticed. What's that? These here. I make a motion, we don't pay those.
Yeah.
We're not going to pay these,
Not those amounts.
right? Not those amounts. So,
We pay everything except the ones that are in yellow.
Ray, are you listening here? Because this is going to affect you as far as with this announcement. I want to make sure you're clear on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you'll probably abstain, which is perfectly fine. So I would make a motion that we pay the warrants with the exception of the highlighted amounts highlighted by the treasurer on where he's still in communications, or we're negotiating communications, we're going back and forth on Medicaid Part B payments. I would suggest we pay the bills except for those. Total amount is $27,693.60. I would remove from the bill list. Okay? Do I have a motion? Jerry's going to abstain because he's for a reason.
Did you make the
I
motion?
make a motion that we pay the
You're looking
bills
for a second.
subject. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay? So it's Winter Baker. And so I made a motion to pay the bills except for $27,000 related to Medicaid Part B payments. Mr. O'Hare, you're abstaining. You're abstaining. So we have two members abstaining for reasons that that could be conflicted. And Mr. Baker?
Aye.
And I'll say aye. So we're going to pay the bills. Okay?
When's the
Yeah.
next meeting?
And the next meeting is the second February in...
Second Thursday.
Second Thursday in February. With, not the second February, the second Thursday in February, now that I've totally confused everyone. It's the second Thursday of the month is our meetings. So it'll be the second Thursday, the 13th? Is it the 13th? Because we don't want to meet on Valentine's Day, so make sure it's not 13th.
The 13th.
I won't be here on Valentine's Day. I'd like to live.
Okay, so it's the 13th, so we're good.
Playing for fun.
So we'll be meeting on the 13th. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
I'd make a motion to close the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.